I can still remember those times when whiskey drinks came without limes, and no one cared about calories in beer. Now there's skinny jeans and hair salons, and football hits are frowned upon. Tobacco is a bad curse, but not carrying a man purse. I can remember days gone by when blue jeans had no button fly, and men were men and full of pride before the manhood died. So bye-bye to the American guy. Trade your Chevy for a Prius, change your white bread to rye. Those hunting rifles are illegal to buy, and now everyone gets trophies who try. 'Cause keeping score might make someone cry. Now pedicures and latte blends have replaced playing poker with your friends. That's not how it used to be. And for many years Old Spice held the throne, and now it's Justin Bieber cologne. And women weren't in the combat zone. I'm afraid that manhood has died. So we keep singing bye-bye to the American guy. Trash your old zipper Levi's and get some button flies. Take your truck and SUV and just kiss them goodbye. Singing this'll be the day manhood died. This'll be the day manhood died.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. John? Where's John?
Right here.
Well, this is your roundtable. What are we going to do tonight, John?
Welcome. Thanks for coming, everybody. Tonight, we're going to give you updates on what constitutional convention committees are doing in Alberta and Saskatchewan, what's been happening, what's going to happen. We're going to go over some definition of words that you hear so frequently, and many, including myself, don't even know what they mean. So get your pen and paper ready, because it's going to be very educational tonight. We're going to cover some good topics, and hopefully not keep you guys too long. Everybody's got work and school and stuff going on tomorrow, get the kids to bed, etc. But we'll do our best to keep you entertained and informed. So with that, what's happening with Saskatchewan, Brenda? Where are you guys at? How's the meetings going?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me on, John. How are the meetings going? They're going. We had a really good discussion in Waldheim. People are really enlightened out there. They came away from the meeting. We have about 9 things. I put in notes for the things that we want to see happen with our Constitution. And from the feedback that I've gotten back, people are liking that they can see something happening. And that was the main gist of it. I
got speakers muted here.
From a few telephone conversations and from emails that I've got, and some responses from the posts that I've done on Facebook. I think it's being really well received, and they like the structure of it. So this is all good things. We just got to keep doing and do more. How did yours go on the 12th there, John?
On the 12th, it was a hit. We didn't pack the place, which is good, because large numbers of crowds are harder to teach than small numbers. Turns out that for our first meeting, everybody knew everybody. So rather than show up and actually do the presentation, we kind of switched things up a bit, more on a personal level. I met a fellow named Tony, was able to sit down with him and explain to him what's happened in history. And it was a good opportunity for some one-on-one time directly with him. Whereas if you get 30 or 40 people, that's not even an option because everybody has so many questions, right? So it was very informative for him and he learned a lot. He's joined our Discord and it's moving forward. We have our next event scheduled for February 1st, Neil and I, at the Sands Hotel in Edmonton, 12340 Fort Road. It's a Saturday before the Super Bowl from 4 till 7. So you might be able to get some pre-drinking going on there. Kind of get primed up for Sunday, all you football guys and gals. We're not sure how many people to expect. We've asked people to RSVP. We just started advertising it a day or two ago. So that's next weekend. But it's going to be good. Hopefully the numbers are small again so that we can have a more of a personalized based conversation with people for people that need clarity on okay, what's happened? Where are we at? And, so many people are in such disbelief. The majority of Canadians are very complacent and just cannot believe that our government can be this evil. And we're here to show you, yes, they can. And here's some paperwork to prove it. Right? So what do you think, Neil? What's your views on that meeting?
The last one we had wasn't too bad. Hopefully get a better turnout this time. I talked to another gentleman that is helping us get a room at the U of A school here in Edmonton. Seating capacity of 250 people. And that's February 8th for that one. John, you want to jump in?
Yeah.
It's the silence of the lambs out there right now.
Yeah. We've been invited as guests to speak at the University of Alberta in Edmonton, of course. We missed the last one. We were both working nights and we were quite frankly dead and just couldn't do it. We didn't really know how to pronounce our names, let alone recite this information. So we had to take a rain check, but we have rescheduled that meeting. Apparently a lot of students are quite interested in hearing what's happened in the history of the landmass known as Canada. It's all mindset, eh? You got to get away from we're a country and we're this and we're that, because we're not. We do have the power to make a substantial change that's going to better everyone, starting with Alberta or Saskatchewan, as we seem to be the only two teams out there actively participating. Hint, hint. So for all you people watching and wish to participate, we would love to get you on board. There's a lot of people to teach this information to. There's even more to convince that it's fact and reality. The bulk of the masses, like I said, just can't believe that it's real. Everyone's under this mindset that the government's going to take care of us, when you do some digging, you'll find quite the opposite. They're not here to help us. They're here to put their hands in our pockets and kill us, believe it or not. Chemtrails, 5G, it's a pretty big rabbit hole. And once you start digging into it, the dots will start connect for you. And we can show you where to get the information to read, where you can find factual evidence that supports all this stuff. But, at the end of the day, if it doesn't get your attention, well, then you likely don't have an interest in it. And I can see my camera's froze, so I'll let someone else talk for a few minutes while I try and fix that.
Is that your new computer, John, that your camera is now frozen up on?
No, sir. That's my desktop.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. He'll be back, as we all know he will. So, guys, What have you got coming up next, Brenda? Do you have another meeting scheduled?
We've got 3 in the works, nothing on the calendar just yet. We're looking at another one in Regina on either the 7th or no, just a minute. Now I got to find my calendar to see what day of Monday is. But it's the 2nd or 3rd February, Monday in February. We haven't got a venue locked down yet, so that's why nothing is in place. From the meeting in Waldheim, they did ask me if I would come out to Outlook and to Edam, and then when Renee gets back from BC, we're going to do one out in Pelly as well. So it's just a matter of getting things locked down on my calendar. And of course, we're starting into, okay, so it would be Monday the 10th or Monday the 17th for Regina. We just haven't got the venue locked down as to when we're doing that. And the people haven't gotten back to me yet for Outlook or for Edam, but I'm sure they will. And it was a really good meeting in Waldheim. People are really informed out there, and they're a lot of fun to do. They answered a lot of their own questions, and we had Doug answer quite a few of the questions as well. And I just felt really positive about it. And if we keep, go ahead.
I was going to say it was one of the better meetings I've been to on the live stream. They had such very, very pertinent questions, and they looked like they had done a lot of reading prior to being there. So a lot of very intelligent people with really good questions, and I really appreciated that. They tested me finally. Anyways, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, oh no, it was. I was looking for someone to jump in and talk. I usually have about 3 minutes of really useful conversation, and then I open the floor up to people. And I think part of why what I do is fairly successful is because I do let people talk, and I do let them answer their own questions. And so that's part of what I do is I bring people and get them involved, and they love it. They really love the participation. It's not me running the show, and it sure shows too. And I'd like to say hello to Duke. Thanks for joining us.
Well, and Duke's just getting his own show together. I'm going to give a quick little update to everybody out there. Duke, myself, Ed Jamnisek, and Hugh Riley are getting together this Tuesday at 1:30 in the afternoon here in Toronto to discuss further on doing live audience roundtable event here in Toronto. And so as that progresses after this Tuesday's meeting, we'll see where we go from there. Duke's coming in from where he's at out at Niagara-on-the-Lake, and Ed's driving down. So we had a meeting last week with Ed and myself and Hugh, and Hugh is very excited about doing this. His studio is going through a little bit of rework right now. And so they should be up and running probably by the middle of February. The studio will be available. So we're thinking, hopefully, right, Duke? Hopefully, somewhere around the end of February, last week of February for our first roundtable event coming out of that channel.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
I just got my show set up and running. I'm sorry to interrupt. I haven't been listening to anything you've said. I was busy getting my own show running, and I apologize profusely for interrupting what you were talking about, but I just wanted to make sure that my audio was working and you guys could hear me. I can hear you, so we're all hooked up. Thank you, by the way, for inviting me in here tonight. Thank you, all of you, so much.
And Duke, what I was talking about was I was talking about the roundtable, live audience roundtable events that you, myself, Ed, and Hugh Riley will be setting up. We're doing a meeting. I'll repeat that. We're doing a meeting on this Tuesday, 1:30, downtown Toronto, at that channel with Hugh. With Duke is coming in, like I said. Ed's coming back down, and we'll go through it. And we should be able to hopefully put our first roundtable event together from that channel on the last week or the second to last week of February, depending upon how everybody's schedule goes. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I think we're going to have, it'll be interesting to say the least. You know, when you bring a live audience into an event of this nature, it's going to be kind of, well, for lack of a better term, interesting. I'll tell you that. Anyway, I'm going to turn it back over to John, because I know he's got other stuff he wants to tell you.
First of all, big shout out to Mr. Duke for working us so much on his shows and showing people that there are actually people with boots on the ground doing stuff, and showing his audience and telling them our names and who to contact and how to get a hold of us. We're still trying to establish teams across this landmass. Right now, we do have established teams only in Saskatchewan and Alberta. So if you're in another province and want to start doing something, you know, to become a teacher and get out and start hosting these events and showing people and teaching people the history of Canada, I would recommend going to alberta.themythiscanada.ca and go on our Discord server. Once you get on our Discord server, Saskatchewan's on there as well, but that's a place for the whole country to go. That's not Facebook, that's not YouTube, that's not censored. We're not going to get booted off there. It's a place for us all to meet, to chat, to find out what's happening in your community, when the next event is in your community or in your country, or, you know, stay informed, keep in the loop. Maybe you got some questions you want to ask because you're unclear on a few things, like what happened with King Edward when the Queen died, and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Like everyone's got lots of questions because there's such an abundance of information. So it's a good it's a good tool and resource for people to use, but you need to join it to be able to use it. I understand there's been some issues with some people joining it. You have to type accept to accept the rules, and I guess there's been some stuff. I don't know because I haven't had to do it, right? So, but my email is also on alberta.themythiscanada.ca. Send me an email if you can't get in. Let's get the problem rectified, and let's get you hooked up with other like-minded individuals like yourself, because we're not as strong as we can be, but we're working on getting there. So I can't stress enough the importance of us all getting together and sticking together to move this movement forward.
John, if I can chime in for a second, buddy, I'm one of those guys, old fogey, not very good with computers. Thank you. I had a tough time getting on Discord, and the layout of it and how it works really threw me for a loop when I first got in there. But then I thought back to the mid-1990s when all of your business software was all DOS prompt kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, Discord became like, yeah, it's not DOS prompt, it's the modern version, but it's all alpha text numerical fed right from the front page, right straight through to the chat. Whereas on Facebook, people are used to being able to click a shiny little button and it does what you want. On Discord, you have to be able to read what are almost website addresses to know what room you're going to, because it's laid out that almost that technical in appearance. It takes a bit of getting used to, folks, but if this almost 60-year-old dumb old bastard can figure it out, any of you that have worked, say, in an insurance company back in the 90s when you were first switching over to computerized paperwork and computerized records keeping, you remember what those old formatted DOS prompt type pages used to look like, that's a lot what Discord is going to look like to you. So it's not going to be totally foreign, but it will be a learning curve, and it's well worth it, because you will find information on Discord that you won't find anywhere else. On Discord, not only do I recommend connecting with Neil and the Saskatchewan page, the Myth, go check out rooms like the Fox's Den. These are chat rooms where guys talk about things, all kinds of stuff. I don't want to get into it, but Discord opens up all kinds of information sources to you, and John will help you get on, or sorry, Neil will help you get on there. I mean, John, that's weird. I'm getting confused. It was John who was talking. You're sitting beside me. Neil's up there in the corner above me.
Either or. I mean, it's like anything else. When you use a new computer program, you got to get familiar with it.
Yeah, it's a learning curve.
Yeah, totally. And if you're having trouble and you can't reach anyone, don't forget, everybody, YouTube is your friend. And there are countless videos available to help you, to show you what buttons do what and how to get here, and explain it to you in layman terms, rather than trying to figure it out yourself and then you've somehow deleted everything and you're right back to square one. Because it's happened, right? It happens to everybody, the best of us. So yeah, don't be afraid to do it. I mean, it's important that we do it, because we've all got to start getting together. We got to start uniting and moving this thing forward. We need people. We need teachers. We need to get this movement going. We need to get the message out there.
Well, you're saying that, buddy, and sitting right here in front of everybody right now tonight, I know it's probably a mute point and you're 5 steps ahead of me already, but the lady that was on my show last night, Cindy, I hope one of you guys have reached out to her, because she's in Alberta. She's not far from Edmonton. In fact, I read comments on my video from last night, because I go watch the video after my show and respond to many of the comments, where people were saying, oh, she's only 45 minutes from my place. Yeah, she's only 45 minutes from here. These are the kind of people, if you can drive for 45 minutes to Cindy's place, Cindy will open up her door and say, come sit at my kitchen table, and that's 5 of us start having a little conversation about this. I guarantee you she will. Am I right,
Hey,
John?
Duke.
No, absolutely.
Hey guys, if I can cut in here, people are asking, who's got the PDF of Whole Canada? Is
I
it on
do.
everybody's
I
page?
have a copy of that file.
Where can people go to find it?
You can email me at dukewillis@gmail.com, DUKE, like Duke the dog, or Duke John Wayne, Willis, like what you talking about, Willis? DukeWillis@gmail.com. Email me. I will send you a copy of Ho Canada. I will send you a copy of the letter to Rene, the Walter Cool letter to Rene Levesque during the Quebec separation, or just after the Quebec separation referendum back in 70. I think that was 74 when that was sent. I can't remember what else I send in that whole package. I have 4 or 5 different items that I will attach to your email and send you. Ho Canada, Inside Canada, the Walter Cool letter, and the Statute of Westminster broken down into a dissecting of Section 11 out of the statute. That all fits as a nice attachment on an email that I don't have to use Google Cloud or anything like that for large attachments. So if you email me at dukewillis@gmail.com, I will reply with those 4 attachments, and you'll have them in your email inbox by Monday morning or Tuesday at the latest.
Hey, Duke. Cindy is part of my Facebook group.
Is she?
Yeah.
Good. Then reach out to her, bud. Do it privately. And I guarantee you, Cindy is the kind of person you want putting feet on the street, even if it's just walking distance from her home. She's the kind of person, you put some paperwork in her hand, I guarantee you she'll be down at the local shopping mall, strip mall, in front of the convenience store and the beer store, handing them out to people.
I'll be talking to her again. She's been reaching out to me quite a few times. So
Okay.
There's 2 L's
for
in
some
Lewis.
information. I just haven't been able to get stuff up and running. John helped me he loaned me his old laptop that I'm going to fix for him. I got my big beast just about ready to go.
I don't know what it's like where you guys live, but here where I am, there's a pawn shop not far from me. They've got printers in the pawn shop for $25. It'll probably cost you more money to buy toner for it than it would to buy the used printer out of the pawn shop. And you can print your own flyers. You don't need to go to a print shop. Buy a sheaf of paper. Even just a couple of hundred sheets is enough to get something going, started, right? 20 bucks out of a paycheck.
No, I got my tower just about finished.
Do you? Okay. Good. I've found lots of ways to cut corners. In fact, Doug has a real good deal on business cards. I don't have $50 to pay for business cards, but I went to Staples and spent $15 on perforated sheets that go into my printer, and I print my own business cards. They don't look great because my toner and my printer isn't the best quality, but it's better than being empty-handed, and I don't have the $50. So I do what I can with what I got, and we all do that. Right, Brenda?
We sure do. I'm finding that I don't do well with business cards, but I've always got an information sheet sitting in my studio. And when parents come in and they just start wanting to talk, and it's in between students, we have a conversation, and I always let them send them out, not empty-handed, but with information about what we're doing. And it doesn't matter to me if they're a new Canadian or an old Canadian. In fact, some of our new Canadians have told me, one said, I was really surprised that I had to swear to the Queen. He says, this didn't seem right to me. He came from India. And he said, we just, like, this isn't right. And I said, you're right. Our government is right. And he was more than happy to take that sheet of paper, I'll tell you. And I told him, research the myth is Canada. You're in a country now, and our government is as corrupt as India's government. In fact, it's worse, I think. And our newcomers are one of the first people that will. But this country is not run right at all. So, what does that tell you? We're on the right track, and people need to know. People just need to know, and if we stop doing what we're doing, how are they going to find out? So it doesn't matter if it's one person or two persons or 20 people at a meeting. You just keep going. Don't stop ever. Don't ever quit, because as soon as we do, we're lost. We're sunk.
I just posted our Discord link in the YouTube chat. I'm not sure if it's going to show up on this chat or not. It's weird.
Well, I can't even read our chat. I have to change screen, and then when I do that, yeah, I know, Duke, but you know what?
Brenda, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad, Brenda. Years and years ago, I had a buddy of mine who had a mountain of beta tapes, and he swore that beta would outlast VHS.
That's fine. I love my Apple products. I just find Windows and all of that stuff so I don't know, just hard to use. This stuff, I press a button, and it's fast. The sound is good. The quality is good. It's just that it doesn't like other products. But But
All right, let's get back to the topic at hand, which
Yeah.
was, I didn't get a chance, by the way, Doug, you sent me something to read and I didn't get a chance to read it, buddy. I got it as I was opening my own show, so I apologize. I'm kind of blank walking in here.
Well, we didn't really plan to do a round table tonight. It was kind of John's idea to do this evening. And really what this is about, Duke, it's about the people and the constitutional committees and getting updates as to what's going on there. I threw an idea out while we were still in studio before the show started that we might define a few terms just for fun for the audience. And, you know, I guess, guys, if you want to start doing that, I can open up the docs and we'll start playing around with words because words are fun, right? Especially when you find out what they really mean.
I have one message to all the viewers before we get started on that. It's
Go on.
short and sweet, and it's get off your butts and get out there. Come down to our meeting this Saturday. Get involved before it's too late. That is all. Let's look at that stuff, dude.
That's it. Okay, everybody off your butt. Come on, let's get going here. So let's start out with a couple of words that everybody knows. I mean, everybody has heard these words. We use them all the time when we talk about what we're doing here. And there's two words. The first word is legal, and the second word is lawful. And everybody thinks they know what legal and lawful mean. So let's start with legal. Okay, guys. John, Neil,
Awesome.
Brenda.
I was waiting for this. And I could be wrong, everybody, but
Oh,
that's
you just
okay.
Googled it. You just Googled it.
No, I did. And right here.
Okay.
From my understanding, from what I've learned, legal is a term used in the political realm. That means in the government sandbox. Lawful is a word used in the people's realm, in the common law realm, which is what we're working towards. Is that correct? Final answer.
Go ahead, Neil. What's your crack at it?
Ooh,
Legal. What does legal mean? In your mind, what does the word legal mean?
Legal is in right by natural law.
Okay. How about you, Brenda? What does the word legal mean to you?
For me, it means the court system, according to the police, according to our law, not the lawful system, but the legal system in Canada.
Okay. How about you, Duke? Now that you've looked it up on Google.
I've
Take a
actually
crack
been
at it?
busy responding to people in the chat rooms,
I'm
both
kidding.
on my Facebook and my YouTube. So, no, I haven't been looking it up, Doug.
I was kidding. Go ahead. So what does it mean to you? What does legal mean to
I
you?
was always the kid who sat in the back of the room and went like this to the teacher because they think they'd catch me sleeping when really I'm just bored because I already know the answer. Well,
What's the answer?
the answer is, what is legal?
Yes.
Legal is the practice of implementing rules and regulations under maritime or admiralty law jurisdiction.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, from Merriam-Webster's dictionary, legal.
Wait, before you answer this, do we get a bigger cookie if we're closer to the correct answer and a smaller cookie if we're nowhere near the answer?
Okay, you got the tiniest cookie going there, Duke.
Oh!
So here we go. Established by or founded upon law, okay? Now we must remember, as we're listening to this, established by, or, the key word there, or, founded upon law, or official or accepted rules. So when we look at legal, established by or founded upon law, that's law of the land, or official or accepted rules, that's maritime admiralty. That's where your fictions are, okay? So legal has standing in both law of the land and law of the sea, but it's looked upon a little bit differently.
Now I just have to, we're talking words here, Doug, and you just used two different words. In the definition, you used the word founded on law.
No, founded upon
Founded upon
law.
law. Then in the very next sentence, you said legal has jurisdiction in law.
No.
No.
I said
Okay, what was it
legal-
you said? You said legal has
legal
something
can be
in
used-
law. But
can
just
be
because it's
used in law of the
founded on
land.
law or founded upon law doesn't mean that it has effect within common law.
Okay. It has standing in both the common
Standing,
law
that was the word.
and it has standing within maritime admiralty. In maritime admiralty, it is official or accepted rules because there is no law in maritime admiralty. They deal with fictions. But founded upon law, okay, within the common law, that's where it stands there. So legal, we have two ways of using it. When we have law of the land, we have legal status in law of the land. When we have law in maritime law, we have official or accepted rules that are legal, okay? They're not law, but they're accepted rules, so they're legal. That's what they call their statutes, et cetera, okay? They're not actual law because in admiralty maritime, they're only statutes or rules, regulations, et cetera. So,
okay,
that's what legal is.
can I get a little clarification here?
Go for it.
You switched from founded upon to standing within. In other words, having merit, credibility, enforceable entity or qualities versus being founded upon, which if we look at the premise of many of our laws, they're based on the intent. It's manslaughter unless you form the intent ahead of time to kill someone, and then it's murder. Based on intent. And that's what founding upon is. It's following the intent of the law and adapting that into a legal maritime jurisdiction. I fail to see how founded upon also gives qualification or quantification to standing within. In other words, having merit, having strength and authority.
It's the use of the word. When you use it in the admiralty maritime jurisdiction, okay, it's using it for official use. For example, you go to a courtroom. You don't go to a lawful legal, or you don't go to a lawful courtroom. You go to a legal courtroom. Okay, you go through, as Brenda actually got closest to the definition by saying that and Brenda, if you wouldn't mind repeating yourself because I've forgotten what it was. Hello, Brenda.
Hi. Legal is pertaining to the criminal justice system, to the legal system of Canada, which is not lawful. It's
Correct.
legal.
Well, and it can be lawful if we cede a de jure government.
Right. If we accept
it's
their
a legal system today.
Right.
And that's what we go through, that legality. But legal also works in both common law and in admiralty maritime. And so it's not strictly regulated or strictly put upon just Admiralty Maritime.
Now,
Once de jure is established, then our laws we can determine being legal, because
Well,
then it.
you would still use the word. I use the term when I say the de jure government will be legal and lawful, and
Right.
the de facto government might be legal but unlawful at this time. Okay.
right.
Right.
Now, we would in our Constitution, Doug, especially into where we're making different or dealing with different jurisdictions of law, we would have to have a means for a lawfully recognized man or woman under common law in order to a doorway, a hallway that connects the common law system to an admiralty system that we use as the people to regulate huge corporations like Walmart or S&C Lavalin. That is where we would need maritime corporate style jurisdictions. And corporate is separate from maritime, by the way. Doug will tell you that contract law, although they like to use the same sort of legalese wordage, they're two different jurisdictions, okay?
Well, and here's the thing about legal. Legal can be used in any jurisdiction of law. It can be used in civil law, it can be used in common law, it can be used in admiralty law, it can be used in maritime law. Now, that's what the point I was trying to make here as to what happens here. Lawful, on the other hand. Now there's the other word that we're going to look at. No, because it is very specific. I got to find it here. There it is there. Lawful, okay, being in harmony with law, not founded upon law, but now it's being in harmony with law, constituted, authorized, or established by law, okay? There it's lawful. So what law are they talking about? They're talking about law between men and women. What is that? That's law of the land. What is that? That's common law. It can also be looked at being lawful in civil law, okay? Provided that they make that, I can't remember the term for it now.
A codicil?
No, it's not a codicil. It's civil law can be lawful, being in harmony with, because it has to be, when something is lawful, it must be in harmony with the law, okay? And maritime law can also be in harmony with maritime law, provided that it takes place on board a ship and not on board where we are here, not on the land. Here, when they bring maritime law onto the land, it becomes unlawful. If you're on a ship at sea, then it is being in harmony with the law of maritime law on the ship, okay? So you can still have it as lawful, but here on the land, we're talking about law of the land. So constituted, authorized, or established by law of the land. Okay,
right.
If it's constituted, authorized, and established by law of the sea, then it has to take place on the sea. It cannot take place on the land, which is what they've done here, which is why things are unlawful here rather than being law of the land. They brought law of the sea onto the land, being unlawful. It is not being in harmony with the law. It is not constituted, it is not authorized or established by law. It's established by the point of the gun. And it deals with the fictions. In other words, you're looking at what we call color of law, okay? When they bring maritime law onto the land, there is no harmony. It's in disharmony, or it's in creation of color of law. Now that's appearing to be law, but in fact being code, regulation, administrative, or statutory law applying to incorporated entities, not people. So that's what maritime law is. What we're dealing with here is incorporated entities. And if we look at what they call law that they're enforcing on us, they're enforcing code, regulation, administrative or statutory law applying to incorporated entities. What's a person, Duke? What's a person? Are you there? I can't see you on
Oh,
screen. I was saying, what's a person,
hello?
Duke?
Oh, the host had me muted. Sorry. What's a person? A
Yeah.
person is a corporation.
Exactly.
And a corporation has all the rights of a natural person.
I was just going to say,
Excuse
what's a
me, I
natural
have to go out to
person?
the garden and water my natural persons.
Oh God, I got one for you. I brought this in tonight just specifically for this. This is word origins, okay? And so I wanted to bring in, let's see, the word origin for natural person. It gives a little bit of a history here. So I'm going to, once again, I'm going to give you a little history. So let's see if I can't find it. Oh gosh. I had it here like a second ago. It's here.
There it was, gone.
It was here.
That's all right. Neil's going to get up, put some music on, do a little dance
Here
for
it is.
us.
I found it. I flick it too fast. So natural person, the phrase natural person, it's defined as a man or a woman in Roman law as a perverse and false attempt to claim that the fiction of person is part of natural law. Isn't that interesting?
Read that again.
Or woman, I'm just doing that, a man or woman in Roman law as perverse and false, as a perverse and false attempt to claim that the fiction of person is part of natural law.
So even under Roman law, they determined that person was fiction.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And so it was a man or a woman in Roman law as a perverse and false attempt to claim that the fiction of a person is part of natural law. What's natural law? Well, that would be common law. Remember, we did the show, what was it, on Hump Day, where we talked about natural person and how municipality and corporations
are with JD.
Yeah, are being
the private
treated.
Person.
No, last Wednesday we did the Hump Day.
Oh, yep.
Where we talked about the municipal and corporations and how they how they could collect income tax or property taxes based on the British North American Act, Section 92(2), I think it was, and 92(8). From there, that allowed them to collect property taxes, but they could be treated as a natural person. Well, what do we know as a natural person when it comes to a corporation? That's corporate personhood. We did a roundtable on that a couple of weeks ago about corporate personhood, and this is a prime example of just that. When we did the Hump Day and we showed how municipalities, even in the Municipal Act, they were to be treated as natural persons. And this is the false attempt by the de facto government to claim that a fiction of a person is part of natural law. So when you go claim yourself to be a natural person, which is what this whole letter was about that they were sending out, you're making a claim to be a natural person, you're actually buying into their false attempt.
It's funny that you mentioned that show, Doug, because there's been a lady making all kinds of comments today on that show on YouTube.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, after tonight's show, maybe you should go visit my YouTube channel and read some of the comments. I think her first name is Grace.
Oh, that's the one we went after. She's the one that put these letters together.
So I spoke to Grace this afternoon, and surprisingly enough, she wants to take everything out of the Municipal Act. And I kept saying, but you got to go back to the BNA Act. And she doesn't want to grasp the concept of corporate personhood.
And, okay, it'll grasp her.
I tried, but she just won't accept it and says, okay, so you're using parts of the Municipal Act, and you're saying that it doesn't get Municipal Act gets its power from the province. They say, yeah, and then where does it show up? It says, well, look at the BNA Act. That's where they get their power from.
Yep.
So you can't just pick and choose.
The municipality, as Doug pointed out on Wednesday night's show, the municipality does not levy or apply the taxes. The municipality assesses or determines the value of that which is going to be taxed. They then, the municipality, sends that evaluation, that assessment, to the province. The province, lawfully under the British North America Act, even though they're an illegal entity, under the British North America Act, the province applies the tax calculation to that assessed value. The province then, as a corporation, sends out the collection notice to its licensed agent, the municipality, who then turns to you, the resident, and collects it. They're not applying the tax, they're merely collecting it. And if Grace can't understand that from the very municipal act that she's quoting, I'm sorry, but if I have to explain it again, Grace, you won't understand it. It's not my fault you were born that dumb.
Okay, and moving on. No, but I mean, it's very true, Duke. And we know through what we've been doing here, okay, quick one here. So everybody knows the word understand, do you understand this? Do you understand that? So let's see how the word origin came about. 18th century, understand, its source of the word was in Latin. Source language words under equals wave, water, stream, sta equals stay, remain, and do equals yield, surrender, or concede. So basically,
the key word concede.
Yes, the definition is a deeply occult word used immediately established jurisdiction, both in etymology and literally as to stand under. Also used to describe the benign concepts of perception of mind, to possess knowledge, to think, to believe, etc., etc. So, what does it mean in law? It means you stand under my jurisdiction, because that's what they're doing. Immediately establish jurisdiction. When a police officer pulls you over and arrests you, he reads you your rights. He says, "Do you now?" And then he says, "Do you understand?" And what he's asking for is for you to stand under his jurisdiction. He got to establish jurisdiction. If he can't establish jurisdiction, he can't arrest you. So the obvious answer to that is you say, "No, I do not understand."
You do what I do. You look at them and you say, "No, I'm sorry. I do not stand under you." Because that's what he's asking you. He's reversing the words and disguising the meaning. Reverse it right back and give it to him exactly as he means it to you. No,
Well,
I do not stand under you. I comprehend what you're telling me, but I do not stand under you. Comprehend means the same thing as understand, but understand does not mean the same thing as comprehend.
that's true. And the easier way to deal with that, Duke, is just to say no. It is. I mean, you could, because then you're going to get into an argument with a police officer, and most of these guys are not very well versed in law. As a matter of fact, when they pull you over and ask you for your license, et cetera, they're actually breaking the law because they're practicing law without a license, and they're not allowed to do that by creating what they call joinder. Joinder is when they have your license and you attached as one. That's a creation of joinder. So by asking for your driver's license and you giving it to them, they've created joinder. That means that the person on the license is now joined to the man behind the wheel of the car. That's called joinder. And if you're doing that without a law license from the Bar Card Association or the Law Society, then you're actually practicing law without a license, and you're not allowed to do that. And that's what police officers do, and yet they're never charged. Isn't that funny how that works?
Yet.
Well, and so let's move on a little bit here. So let's have some fun. There's a word that we keep hearing all the time here in Canada, and it's called Confederation, the father of Confederation. We confederated in 1867, 150 years of Confederation, et cetera, et cetera. So let's see what the word Confederation actually means. Okay. Under a legal dictionary, it says a union of political organizations. So if we look at what happened here in Canada in 1867, did we have a union of political organizations? And the very simple answer to that, of course, is if you've ever read the British North American Act, the answer to that is no, we never did. They created a colony, not a confederation. So what was the word that Russell Roger Smith used in 1947 when he was interviewed by George Barr? Towards the end of the interview, Barr asked him, what is it that we should do? And he said, we need to federate. So what does federation mean? Federation is the act of constituting a political unity out of a number of separate states, colonies, or provinces so that each member retains the management of its internal affairs. Wow. Constitute a political unity. So we'll go from there to constitution. The formal system of primary principles and laws that regulates a government. A legal document describing such a formal system. So what are we trying to do here, ladies and gentlemen?
Brenda.
John, Neil,
create a constitution.
Federate.
Doing federating, exactly. We're looking at federating.
And what's the first step in federating?
Well, in order to constitute a political unity, one must hold a constitutional convention. And that takes us to the next one. So what is a constitutional convention? A gathering to draw up a constitution. Now they get specific. That in Philadelphia in 1787, of representatives from each of the former colonies, except for Rhode Island, at which the Constitution of the United States was framed. Cool, eh? And it's really that simple. So when we use these words, we now understand what it is what we're saying. I'm going to throw one last one at you. I know you're going to love this one, Duke. I know everybody does when I say it. Odious debt. So
that's the government's debt, not the people's debt.
Odious debt, legally in international law, sovereign debt incurred through activities which do not serve the best interests of the nation, especially when incurred by a despotic, tyrannical, or otherwise unjust and oppressive regime, de facto. Such debts are typically considered invalid and written off after the regime is deposed. But what are we doing? We're seating a de jure government to depose the de facto. All that debt belongs to who, Mr. Trudeau?
Now, can I
bankers
just
are going to come knocking on his door, not ours.
Can I just play the devil's advocate here for a minute, Doug?
Yeah,
because in the past few minutes, you've painted a real nice picture of how we can turn this great big red maple leaf back into a reality. And we've kind of overlooked 10 really big steps that have to be taken and accomplished properly first before we can federate any political union from Atlantic to Pacific. And I think Brenda and Neil and John are the faces that represent the leading cutting edge of 2 of those 10 entities that have to, steps that have to be taken before we can get to this reunification of.
No, okay, you missed my point. I wasn't talking about creating a federal authority. I was talking about federating in each of the provinces and seating a different government there. Yes, the word province was used in the definition. Okay, and I read it because I read it as it was written. But
I know.
you're also within the provinces, there are all of the various smaller entities, municipalities, what you'll call them, et cetera, et cetera. I'll bring it back up again. Just hang on a second. Here we go. So separate states or colonies. Okay, so what we have, or provinces, or so that each retains its management of its internal affairs. So if we look at it from a provincial point of view with a federation, we're federating a de jure government with a constitution in each of the provinces. Okay, and how do we do that? Because we go through various communities and we teach them how to hold a constitutional convention. And then we teach those conventions to send delegates into the cities for the big delegations to create the constitution for the province itself. So I use the big overall country of states and colonies and provinces coming together under one union. But that can also works the same way for the province itself. Because don't forget, the 13 original colonies of the United States federated their own constitutions prior to having a constitutional convention to create the Constitution for the United States.
That's right. And that's a point I constantly keep stressing to my audience during my shows, Doug, is that we look at the United States as a country with 50 provinces, when in reality, each of those states, the state of Virginia, is its own independent country. I like to use Montana as an example because it's relatively modern history. Late 1800s was when the territory of Montana went from being a territory through Confederation. They wrote their own constitution for the country of, well, at that time, the territory of Montana. They made Montana its own sovereign country from a territory, and then as an equal partner to all the pre-existing countries who had joined the Union, Montana asked to join. The Union confirmed that Montana had lawfully created their own constitution and were, in fact, internationally recognizable as equal, identical entities to the pre-existing members of the Union, and Montana was brought in. The same thing has to happen here in this land we call Canada. Before we can recreate this big red maple leaf, we have to create all the individual sovereign lawful entities that will be brought together to make this Atlantic to Pacific entity. And if we don't have all of them, you better accept the fact that there's going to be a chunk that used to be called Nova Scotia or New Brunswick or Newfoundland that doesn't want to be part of the big red maple leaf. Newfoundland was, after all, the last of the provinces to join Confederation.
Actually,
Oh, wait, no, you're right, Doug. It wasn't Newfoundland. It was...
No, it was Newfoundland. You were right. 1949.
Okay.
I was going to say to Neil, could you please mute your microphone because you're coughing into the microphone and it's. Thank you. Go ahead, Brenda. Sorry.
There's a couple of groups that want to federate with the United States. And so I've talked to them and I said, well, you realize that before you can join the States, of course, you have to have a de jure government set here. You can't just take 15 or 20 of you and go join the States. In order to join the United States, you have to have a de jure government established and then joined their federation.
Well,
So-
and I was just going to say one more thing. Duke had mentioned that Montana had to have they didn't have to have an internationally recognized. What they had to have, their constitution, if you look at the constitutions throughout all of the 50 states, they're all Republican form of governments. The architecture of every single constitution is pretty much identical to the Virginia Constitution, which is identical to the US Constitution. And so they had to seat a Republican form of government in order to join the US federal authority. It didn't have to be internationally recognized, but it did have to be a republic form of government.
My apologies.
No, that's okay. That's okay. As far as us joining the United States, yes, we would, if say, for example, you said, well, I want to become the 51st state of the Union in the US, Saskatchewan, you're absolutely correct, would have to seat a de jure government under a Republican form of government that was basically identical to the United States Constitution.
Nothing in the Constitution of Saskatchewan can contradict or conflict with the Constitution of the United States.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Or any of the other 50 states, by the way.
Yes.
That's why we've been studying kind of the Virginia Constitution as well, right?
And
I'll
be honest, Brenda. I've been looking at the very initial Constitution that was created, not all the amendments, especially anything post World War I, any changes to the Constitution of the United States after World War I, you can pretty much rest assured they're legalese gobbledygook that's designed and intended to twist the intent of the original Constitution to facilitate the Nancy Pelosi's and the Hillary Clintons of the world, okay? Which unfortunately here in Canada, they didn't have to do because we didn't have a standing constitution for them to turn into a Frankenstein. If we as outsiders can look at that early original form of the Constitution, and more importantly, many of the essays, letters, and documents that the fathers of the Constitution wrote explaining why they wanted these clauses in there. Those essays, that history, that's the most important part of the American Constitution. It explains to you and helps you understand why they used words like we the people, why they didn't put in something like all the men and women of the... They chose their words very carefully in those essays and letters and all the volumes of documents written before, during, and after the time that the Constitution was created. Go study them, read them. They're hard. Some of them are hard old English verbiage to have to read. It's kind of like reading original Charles Dickens stuff. But plow through it, because if you think you're going to sit down and try and figure out how you want to build a currency, how you want to build a legal system, you got to know in your head which direction the needle is pointing you on the compass. And you got to know you can trust the compass. That's what a lot of those essays and notes, not the Constitution itself, but the thought process, the reasoning behind it. Go dig those up and you'll learn so much.
Here's the books you're looking for. They're called the Federalist Papers and the Anti-Federalist Papers.
Thank you.
And you could get them off of Amazon.com, off of Amazon.ca. Abe's Books is another place. I found, believe it or not, both the Federalist Papers and the Anti-Federalist Papers in talking books. In other words, you don't have to read them. You can just put them onto your iPad or iPod and listen to them. Amazing stuff. I was absolutely just
headphones.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but I suggest that to anybody who is going to get involved in this any deeper than just holding committee meetings. and you're going to be part of writing a constitution, please read the Anti-Federalist and the Federalist Papers. They're a really good read. They talk about what took place within the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia over that 3-year period, and it's really interesting. The Federalists wanted a big government, and the Anti-Federalists wanted a small government.
Yep. But think about this. These notes are like you reading the stenographer's record of a court case versus reading the judge's verdict in National Enquirer in the grocery store checkout line. Okay? Because that's what, when you look at, here's the American Constitution, blah, 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 blah. But all you're reading is the National Enquirer end result. Go read the history of all the work and the thought processes, and you'll see in those letters, in those essays, the authors, the different men that are writing them, talk about how this man brought up this issue, and we discussed the pros and cons of it, and I have to stay on the con on this, and over here on this issue, I'm for it. So they talk about all these things, and these are topics, issues, and decisions that you're going to have to think about, whether you're writing a constitution or you're Brenda Stettner talking to a room full of people who are trying to write a constitution, and you're like the sheep herder. You're standing at the back of the flock, making sure they don't wander too far off this way, but you leave them to find their own footsteps in the general direction that you make sure they're going. That's a lot of a good comparison of what Neil, John, Brenda, and others are doing right now. Brenda's not holding people's hands going, put an X here and a check mark there. She's not doing that. She's teaching people how to do it for themselves. She's the shepherd behind the flock who's saying, you guys got to figure out where to step, where the thistles are and where the grass is green. I'm just going to help you move along and keep you all together in a group. And that's all Brenda does. Go watch her videos. She's great at it. And I know that John and Neil are going to do the same thing, because don't look to me or the people you see on this screen, especially Doug. Don't look to him thinking, oh, well, Doug's going to do this for us. No, that's not our job. It's not Brenda's job. Is it, Brenda?
You certainly don't want me to do it. In fact, I tell people, if you don't like what's coming out of my mouth, you better get in on this Constitution, because what's coming out of my mouth is going into the paper. And then you vote on it, right? So...
Well, absolutely. Yep. And what Brenda and John and Lindsay and Neil and the others are trying to do is, and myself and Duke, Ed, and is we're trying to teach people what goes into a constitution. We're not going to write the Constitution for them, but because people need to understand, A, what was corporate personhood? What's a corporatocracy? What are natural persons compared to regular persons, compared to men and women, et cetera, et cetera. So understanding what goes into the Constitution via its framework, whether do you want a democratic republic? Do you want a direct democracy, et cetera, et cetera? Do you want a communist regime? Do you want to create a fascist government? All of these things are going to be the will of the people anyways. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what we do. Brenda and Neil have both created an online working constitution off of Google Docs that you can tie into and learn from that on how that comes together. And that's really important. It's not about writing the Constitution. It's about teaching people how to write the Constitution. That's important here. And too many people get caught up in, oh, well, I'm just going to write a Constitution and then they're going to put it onto the people and they can ratify it. That's foolishness. One person or two people can't write this. It has to be the will of the people. Otherwise, we may as well not do any of this. What do you think, John? What do you think, Neil?
I completely agree.
No, I agree with you, too.
We have this document going, and people need to understand that these are suggestive clauses only. It's your form of participating. What would you like to see in your constitution for your country? so that these documents can be forwarded to the powers that be, that we have elected delegates to forward them to, and then the process starts, right? But it's a good starting point for how we want to live our lives, how we want to raise our kids and raise our families and not live paycheck to paycheck, and, you know, get the government out of our pockets. We all know we've had enough with what's been going on. Go
I
ahead.
just published, or I just on our group in Facebook and on Saskatchewan page, I published what I said is the notes from the Waldheim meeting. And it says, we have a draft. It's growing as people become educated and more people become involved. We are educating what needs to go into a constitution. Number one, protect our unalienable rights. Number two, return the courts to a lawful jurisdiction of the land, common law. Number three, develop clauses to limit government authority. Number four, develop clauses to limit corporate power, remove corporate personhood, and return corporations to a status below the man-woman. Number five is to develop clauses for monetary value and banking regulations so that usury and interest do not consume the consumer. Number six is to develop social policies for services such as healthcare, policing, militia. Number seven is restructure municipal, town, city administrations to be accountable to we the people. Number eight is accountability for how our resources are managed and how to use the resource revenue to the benefit of we the people. And number nine was no taxation of land or income. So yes, we have a constitution draft, but these 9 points will help somebody else to go and create their own draft.
By the way, it's not just land and people you don't tax. It's no taxes whatsoever if you're going to protect unalienable rights. Because to put any kind of, even a sales tax or a carbon tax or a gas tax or a road tax, that's an infringement upon the unalienable rights of men and women, because that's a tax on their labor, and their labor is their property under unalienable rights.
Okay, so no taxation, period.
Correct.
I can change that.
And here's the thing: when you're such resource rich, the provinces sit on trillions and trillions of resources.
Right.
I talked to Rudy Bruce earlier today. He did a beautiful video. He's had posted on YouTube today about the minister that went around feeding the homeless, and they arrested him and put him in jail.
Yes.
We shouldn't have homelessness. We shouldn't have any of this, people living on the street. We have so much wealth in our resources that the federal authority claims are theirs under Section 109 of the photocopy of the British North American Act sitting in the archives in Ottawa. I mean, how foolish is that? It's a goddamn photocopy. You know, at least George Bush Jr., when he said, when it was asked about, well, what about the Constitution, Mr. President? He says, it's nothing but a goddamn piece of paper. Well, he's an idiot. We don't even have that.
Ours
we have a photocopy.
Ours isn't even a full photocopy. It's copy and paste from different sections of different parts of the BNA Act that, yeah, it's anyway. I call it minestrone soup.
Well, and it's designed to confuse, and this is why here at the Myth, this is what we've done, is we've made it simple for people to follow a timeline. This is what they did. This is how they did it. These are the documents. Go read the documents and understand. Oh, okay, I get it. Okay. But they made sure that they spread them far and wide, and it took a while for me to pull them all together and put them into a timeline. But now that they're there, please, ladies and gentlemen, go read the stuff. It's there for you.
Yes.
You know, if you don't believe the documents off the website, go onto the UK archives, search, and go onto the Canadian Ottawa archives and search. They're all there. They're not hiding these things.
We do 2 more words for definition, Mr. Doug.
Go for it.
Inalienable and unalienable.
Well, inalienable and unalienable were back in when Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence. He wrote inalienable rights in the Declaration. When it was sent to Congress, they changed it to unalienable rights. And the reason they changed it is that give it clearer readability. That's all they did, give it clearer readability. Back then, inalienable, unalienable meant exactly the same thing. Then along came the United Nations in 1945, and they created this little thing called the Human Rights Charter. And within the Human Rights Charter, they used the term inalienable. Now they are thinking that they're conning people into claiming they have human rights and they're inalienable. But if you go on to read that, and you'll find the definition of inalienable that they make is that those rights are actually privileges. Whoa, what's that mean? Well, privileges are something that a government gives you. Now, what happens to privileges? They can be taken away just as easily. So, here's the question that I have to ask people. I say, okay, you have the wonderful question, John. You say, are you happy with your government? That's a good question. My question is this: why is the government above you? Why do you fear your government? The government is a fiction created by man. Why are you in fear of it? Wouldn't it be better to have a government that you didn't fear, but that had fear of you? Thomas Jefferson was also famous to make this saying. He said that when people fear your government, you have tyranny, but when the government fears the people, you have liberty. So today we have tyranny. Let's move it to liberty.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
Into what you said there. Can you hear me now? I can't hear anybody now.
I can hear you. I'm muting my mic so that you can.
Oh, there we go. Okay, good. We're still on. We have communication. So it's quite interesting. And I wanted to bring this point up earlier about how people dig into this, but don't keep their mind open to other possibilities. They seem to reach a certain point in research, if they do any at all, and they accept that as the end of the line, when in fact it keeps going. And the problem I'm finding with people is they've only reached a certain point and they haven't left their mind open to what if something else happened, because pretty much in every situation something else has happened. So we really need people to start opening their minds to the what if scenario and finding out, to the fullest extent that they can, of the facts that have all happened. And, it's a lot of information, but at the end of the day, your very future depends on it. Our very future, our kids, our grandkids, our great grandkids. It's a shame to think that our forefathers died for our freedom, and today we really don't have any. We've been stripped of so many things, and I mean, we've got to get together, unite, and do something about it, which is why we are on the forefront taking that step to do it, to educate people and show them. And I mean, I talk to people every day about this stuff, and it's the same response from everybody. Nobody can believe it.
We had a conversation with that fellow that you met today. You should tell him about, what was his name? Colt or something?
Yeah, Colt something. And his belief was to start a political party. And I kind of sat him back and said, well, first you got to understand that you're not going to beat them in their sandbox. So it doesn't matter what avenue you try, legal, political, it's going to be unsuccessful. Why? Because they've designed it this way. They've designed it for us to lose and pay. That's the big thing. Pay, pay, pay. Think about your everyday lives, how you can't walk out your door without paying. And then Mr. Policeman pulls you over or sees you walking a little crooked down the street and, you know, you're getting jaywalking, you're getting intoxicated in a public place, you know, and then there's criminal record to follow. And it's ridiculous. We can't do anything, yet they can pick and choose what laws they're going to follow. And it's not a fair system. So it was interesting talking to Colt today because, like I said, you've got to draw the line in the sand on where you are. You got to get your feet firmly planted, or how do you know where you're going? If you know that the political realm is extremely unsuccessful, why would you not try to find a solution-based realm, which there is one, which we've been telling people for a year and a half, that is the common law realm, where we can write our own constitution, get it ratified, seated as your government. I mean, it's a process, but it can likely happen if people actually get off their butts and participate. That's another major problem I'm seeing is nobody wants to do anything. Everybody, you know, GST happens, that's okay. Carbon tax happens, that's okay.
The people wanting to form the political parties just want to stick their snouts in the trough, and you know, it has nothing to do with wanting anything for we the people. It's just we the me.
And it doesn't matter who gets elected, ladies and gentlemen.
No, it doesn't.
I could hold up the little child case and prove that to you.
The elections are the biggest fraud around because it's the elections that keep you believing that this system is about we the people. And all it is saying, hey, let me rule you. Pick a color. Here, pick a color. But in the end, you're listening to our rules. And people are eating it up. It's like our duty you have to vote. Well, no.
You have to choose your slave master.
Well, yeah. I'm going, I don't think so. I think a vote, even recognizing their system, even putting your name on the voters list or getting it checked off. That just means, yeah, this system is legal. And we're going, no, it's not. Ignore the damn thing. And if you look at it, only 37% of Canadians actually go to the polls. What does that tell you? That tells you 63% don't believe that the system is fair. That's what that's telling you.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know those 63%.
I guarantee you 37% is an artificially inflated number. I guarantee you it's probably closer to 20 to 25%.
Yeah, I'm thinking so. We have a good amount of people that just say, you know what, voting isn't going to do anything, and they're right. It doesn't do anything. Now all we need to do is
sorry, Brenda, go ahead.
All we need to do is connect with that bigger population and get them to sit down with us, find out who those people are, and say, okay, you're right. We need to do something, and we can do something, and we have the authority to do it. Let's do it.
I want to point out something that I saw in the Facebook chat a while ago before I got up and got a mouse to work my broken laptop. Someone in the Facebook chat said, so we have to get everyone involved in this? And people keep asking me that, or trying to make that point, that how are we going to get everyone in Saskatchewan involved in this? And this is a misnomer. a mistake. It's a misguided concept that you have to have everyone involved. You can't force Bob the farmer off his field to come and sit in a meeting hall and talk about a constitution. You can't force people to get involved. What you are obligated and responsible to do is give everyone the ability, the option, and the knowledge that they can partake. The choice to partake is theirs, not yours.
I agree, Duke.
Force them.
You have to let them know. You have to let them know, and whether they decide to participate with you, then, but at least you've done your due diligence by letting people know. And that's what we're about.
There's two words that the five of us here tonight, and anyone else who wants to take on this role in your community, which is what we want you to do in your little neighborhood. It might only be a couple of 50 people that you talk to. Go talk to them. But what you have to remember, none of us, not anyone you see here on this screen tonight or anyone you're ever going to talk to, has any more power or authority than you do. But two things we all share. You cannot shirk this. You cannot say, nope, I'm not part of that. There's two things we share and cannot forget: responsibility to our fellow man and an obligation to tell the truth. Even if people don't want to hear it, they have to know the truth. Don't give them, well, we can deal with that. No, tell them the truth. Don't sugarcoat things. Don't try and make it sound easier than it's going to be. Doing this kind of stuff is not easy. Brenda will tell you that. John and Neil will tell you that. Don't sugarcoat things. Tell people the truth and understand and respect your responsibility to all the people you're talking to and all the people that are standing beside you when you're talking to others. Those are the only two things you have. You don't have authority. You don't have power. You have responsibility and obligation. That's the only two things you, as a constitutional activist, delegate, promoter, whatever, that's the only two things you have. No power, no authority, just responsibility and obligation. And if you can't handle those two things, don't step up to the plate. That's simple, folks.
It's a real challenge getting out there and talking to people. And what I mean by that is your conversation's going to go one of two ways. Either they're on board or they're not. There's no other, I'm not. It's either they're on board or they're not, and that answer is decided by my first question, which is, are you happy with your government? When people say no, then you start offering the solution. I was in my local grocery store the other day, and I've lived in this house for 8 years. So I asked the guy, how do you get set up with a booth here? I see people here with booths and they're advertising or whatever they're doing, right? How do you get a booth? Who do I talk to? And he's like, well, I'm the owner, so you do talk to me, but you gotta fill out a form and you've got to have a nonprofit organization, and there's all this criteria to set up a frickin' table at a grocery store, which I thought was kind of ridiculous. So once I started telling him a bit about the myth is Canada, he was immediately, no, not happening. You might offend some of my customers. Not going to happen. I asked this store owner, aren't you concerned about your children and your customers' children that you seem to be so concerned about? Aren't you concerned about their well-being and their future in this landmass known as Canada? And he wouldn't have any part of it. And my point is, you're going to face that out of people. You're going to get that, right? That's one of the barriers you got to deal with. And I guess essentially it's rejection.
Well, two words, John. What are the 2 words? Cognitive.
Cognitive dissonance.
There you go.
Yes, those are the 2 words. And but you can't let it mix your head up and give up, because people are welcome to choice. They're welcome to decide what they want to believe, what they want to do, and you have to respect that, right? You do what you
Well,
want.
when you're 4, you'll jump up and down and say Santa Claus is real. Santa Claus is real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're dealing with lots of that type of mentality.
What are you trying
And
to say, that we're not supposed to do that anymore?
Well, and
oh,
you just have to
Santa
be
Claus
persistent.
isn't real.
We just have to be persistent. That's all.
Yeah,
And
there's a lot more.
stay steady on the message.
Yeah, there's a lot
You
more.
wanted to say something? Yeah.
Yeah, is it time for a song?
Are we looking to say good night to everybody? You're going to bring back a song?
I can still remember those times. Whiskey drinking without one.
Everybody needs to mute their mics, please.
Now there's skinny jeans and hair salons. Football hits are from.
I don't know about you, but that kind of sounded like crap.
Yeah, that sounded horrible.
I couldn't hear anything.
Well, I think that about concludes everything we had to talk about anyway, isn't it? Does anybody have anything else more to add?
Yeah, I got one more thing to add. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have well, wait a minute, John. I do. I'd like to add one more thing. We have new hats. I just got them in this week. Everybody, ladies and gentlemen, you can go on. These are great new hats. These are much better than even the ones I had before. They have Velcro straps now for sizing. They're beautiful. On our website, www.themythiscanada.ca, under swag, they are now available, all in black with the Mythis Canada logo on the front. Come on, come on. Other than that, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to me yet again, and to all of us. Appreciate your time and your efforts in what you're doing, and I hope that you appreciate what we're doing for you. Thank you.
Good
Thanks
night,
for coming,
everybody.
Ed.
Thank you very much, Ed.
Before
Good night.
everybody takes off, I have a message to everyone watching this show. If you're in British Columbia, if you're in Manitoba, you see those 3 people sitting on the screen with us tonight, Brenda, Neil, and John. Go find them on Facebook. Go find their page for Saskatchewan or Alberta on themythiscanada.com. If you're in Alberta or in BC, maybe down in the Fraser Valley, there's a couple of patriots I've talked to from the Fraser Valley area of BC who want to get committees going and start having meetings and that sort of thing. And I told them to reach out to Brenda. I don't care where you are. If you're west of Ontario, reach out to these 3 people, Brenda, John, and Neil. They'll tell you how to get things started in your own neighborhood. Don't worry about the whole province. Start small. Walk before you run. Start small with your own little neighborhood. And Brenda, Neil, and John will help you get it going. You do one and you go, hey, you know what? This wasn't so bad. It wasn't so hard, and it was kind of fun. Let's do another one next month, 8 blocks down in the other community center down there. And pretty soon you'll be doing them, and other people will be coming to you saying, hey, how can I get one of these going in the other end of town? That's what happens. Brenda will tell you that's what happens. That's how she got Lindsay. Okay? It works. If you build it, they will come. John, Brenda, and Neil will help you build it. And if you're in Manitoba, come on, let's face it, you can get a couple of hours west. Brenda can come a couple of hours east, and you can meet somewhere near the Manitoba Saskatchewan border if you've actually got to meet face to face. Same with the two guys in Alberta. They can find their way down towards the southern western part of Alberta. If guys in BC want to come east towards Alberta, you can make the time to hook up if you've got to meet face to face. And the day's going to come when Brenda and John and Neil have equipment like projectors that they're using with laptops to put maybe Doug up on a screen. Those days are coming. We're just getting started, but I can see where those days are coming. So you may have to drive partway to Alberta to get some hardware from somebody like John Mahalik, okay? Get used to it. If you want to be part of this, you got to pay to play. Freedom isn't free. Brenda, John, and Neil will help you get started. Reach out to them, folks. It's crucial. They're here to help you. Don't go it alone. There's others who are already cutting the cake, so to speak. Talk to them. Brenda will help you cut your cake and cut your teeth. So will John and Neil. That's why they're here tonight, so that you can see them, talk to them, and know they're real people. They're no different than you. John sweats for a living just like you do. He's not special, neither am I. We're all just people like you. Reach out to us. All three of these people are waiting to help you. Good night, guys. Thank the three of you so much for what you do.
Yes, thanks for coming, Duke.
Thanks for coming, Duke.
Thank
Ed,
you, Duke.
get me out of here. And I can't hear Ed. That's the best way. That's the best Ed has sounded all night. I can't hear him.
Hey, I think it happens on your show every now and then, doesn't it?
Yeah, usually right at the beginning, I forget to hit that little red X.
Yeah, I try to mute myself as much as possible. Anyways, your local Duke Willis programming will begin shortly. Thanks for tuning in.
I'm heading back to my own audience. See you, folks. Brenda,
Yeah.
Neil,
Good
John,
night.
keep up the good work, guys. You're doing awesome stuff.
Any last words,
you.
Neil?
Well, other than my Facebook group is out there too. I'll go and post that in Duke's group for everybody to see.
I'd just like to say thank you and good night, everyone. Thank you for watching. Thank you for hosting us, Ed. We really appreciate it. Thanks again, Doug and Duke, for coming on. And looking forward to more meetings and making this happen. We are going to make it happen. Have a good night, everybody.
You too, Brenda.
See you, Brenda. So I will end this, I guess, with some final thoughts on tonight's show. It's important to realize that the three faces you see, Brenda, Neil's, and mine, are the image of constitutional conventions in the landmass known as Canada. And if you want to get involved to do something, you need to get a hold of one of us three, or Doug or Duke, who can then contact us, put you in touch with us, so that we can show you and give you the tools you need to get started and explain to you how to do it, what to teach, who to teach, etc., and you know, give you the whole deal, you know. Not to mention the fact that we're not making any money on this. This is all volunteer. Anything Neil and I have done so far has been out of pocket. We haven't got, well, I think I got $50 donation from a GoFundMe, but that got eaten up already with printing, and there's expenses to incur, right? Especially if we're going to start traveling out of town. Like the other day, Neil and I went on a road trip. I'm in Edmonton, so we went up to Westlock and then over to Clyde and back down Highway 2 to Edmonton. It took us about 6 hours. But we stopped at every church along the way, every community board, putting up flyers, just to get out there and talk to people, right? Like, there's ways of doing this, and you can also do this in your community, at your coffee shop, at your library, at your grocery store. There's inexpensive ways to do it as well, but you're going to need material to do that. We have all the curriculum you need. And all you got to do is get a hold of us.
Yeah, there are no leaders in this whole organization. It's just these three people are the ones that started it. Hopefully, there's going to be more people stepping forward, and as they become more comfortable, they can take a lead in their town, and maybe they can recruit someone else that's even better than they are.
Well,
there's a lot of work to be done. Whatever you can do, I encourage you guys to do it if you can, please.
The fact of the matter, Ed, is that we, the people, have created this life we have. It's our skills and our creation of technologies that has got us to where we are today. The government's done nothing but take our money and rob our resources, right? They haven't helped us. So we know people who are carpenters. We know people who are accountants. We know people that can help us with transportation. We know people in the film industry. I mean, we just need to unite. We have everything we need. We just got to get together. And the only way that's going to happen is to get off your butt and do something so that we can grow as a big family like our forefathers intended.
Neil, any final thoughts?
That's
it's going to be February 2020. I don't see why we can't get this done in a short time. Like John said, just reach out. If you can't message me on Facebook, my group is in my profile. You can go to the Facebook group, join it. Like John is Discord. There's many ways you can get in contact with us on our webpage. We will get it done. We will help you out as much as we can. And if you can't get a hold of John, try to get a hold of me. If you can't get a hold of either one of us, it's probably because we're a little busy trying to help somebody else or with work. But we're here for you guys to help you out, and we'll get this done.
Yeah, there are no leaders with this. Nobody's better than anybody else. And quite frankly, there's going to be people that come along that are better at this than we are. And by all means, take the reins with some great new ideas and start things off in a more productive direction where we can reach more people, because that's got to be the common goal, is to reach more people, right? It's been going on far too long already with so many cognitive dissonance people. And this can happen in 6 to 8 months, which is a very short amount of time, if we can get together and do it. So here's my final thought, and I won't say any more. Neil and I are doing something for our country. What are you doing for yours? Have a great night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.